conversation about town planning. And today on the show, the focus is on a very, very important topic. Yes, the focus for today is on the city green areas, the role of planners in creating green cities. And with me today in the studio, we have Dr. Jesse Noor, Assistant National Public Relations Secretary. Welcome back.
Yeah, many thanks to the public.
And then we have Dr. Emmanuel Agbato. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, listeners.
Okay, and today we have a fresh face. He goes by the name Ekarikpong Isaiah Ubana, Director, Parks and Recreation, FCDA. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
Okay, so you know how we do it. I'm going to hand over the mic to the men to discourse and talk about the focus for today.
Yeah, thank you very much, listener. Before we get to the Director of Parks and Recreation, Town Planner Ekarikpong Isaiah, I will want our colleague here, Dr. Jesse Noor, to quickly give us a listing of the town planning departments in FCT. Thank you.
Okay, just to thank Dr. Agbato. There are many multiple planning agencies you have in Abuja here. Just quickly run them. So at the end of the day, Director of Parks will have his show and talk much about his own department. And so in Abuja, you have the Department of Urban Regional Planning. It's responsible for the framing, the designing of the city, and setting the tone how the city should develop. It brings out the envisioning, the land uses, the master plans, and all of that. So, and that sort of thinking comes from the Department of Urban Regional Planning. They also have the Department of Department of Development Control. It deals with the implementation of the plans that have been envisioned and by the URP. It's also concerned with the day-to-day regulation of the city in terms of how the city should develop in line with the master plan, and also dealing with some of these illegal activities that are sort of contravening how the master plan should be. So the framework starts with urban regional planning. Development control deals with the implementation of these plans, and then from there you also have Abuja Environmental Protection Board, which concern with issues about the environment, protecting the environment, so that you have a sustainable city and the region at the end of the day. You also have the Department of Mapping and Surveying, which deals with issues of surveying, boundaries, and all the related activities. You have resettlement and compensation. You have engineering services. You also have I've already mentioned land administration. Also parks and recreation. I wanted parks and recreation to be the last one. It's deliberate, so that it's his own show. And so basically these are the departments you have. There are multiples, but these are some of the ones that when it comes to planning, every day you see the public have an encounter with them every day now. Yeah,
thank you, Dr. Jesse Noor. Having said that, can we now zero down on the Director, Parks and Recreation, Town Planner Ekarikpong Isaiah. Town Planner Isaiah, welcome again.
Thank you.
We reckon that you have some issues that you want the public to know, you want to discuss with the public. So can you please go ahead?
Our viewers, I want to thank the organizers of this show for giving me this opportunity to talk about Parks and Recreation Department. I want to start by saying that the master plan of Abuja was very generous and provided 33% of lands within the FCT for purposes of parks, green areas, and open spaces. And all of that, in line with our 2019 park policy, is to be managed, to be developed, managed, maintained, including even administration and operation of the parks by the department. That was supposed to be very generous, but over time there's been a lot of distortion, there's been a lot of redesign on these green areas. So we may not even have up to that as we speak. But again, what the department does is to make sure that how do we recover these greens. In fact, the plans, future planning of the city also expects that every layout ought to dedicate at least 33% for parks, green areas, and open spaces. But we are sorry to say that over time there's been so much abuse on our greens. But as a department, we are determined to make sure that we recover some of these greens where possible. And that's what the department has been trying to do over time. So there's this aspect that the department is pursuing, what we call greenway concept. And that is to encourage, because as we speak, if more trees are cut down, the tendency is that climate change is actually real.
Absolutely.
And we must, it is through aggressive tree planting that we can mitigate this climate change. And so for us in the department, we pursue tree planting, conservation, and all other measures that we think can help to bring back our greens. The department also takes measures to beautify the city. City beautification is key for us. And that's why, from planning point of view, we have many roads that we need to ensure that we plant them and beautify them. We have intersections, interchanges, incidental open spaces. All of these we need to green them and landscape them properly. So to that extent, we always try to make one message to the public. You have to be a friend of the department, especially when we are engaging in tree planting. Sometimes we see that some members of the public, instead of assisting us, we see some of them felling our trees, cutting down our trees. That should not be the case. Because when the master plan made provision for that 33%, it was envisaging a green city.
Absolutely.
And to achieve a green city, it requires all of us to plant as many trees as we possibly can. And of course, there are some roads that are dedicated in the master plan, like the parkway. We have what they call buffer. All of these are to be, that's what we call green belt. And so for us, the department is looking towards that direction to pursue the green belt policy or green concept as it is, which would allow us to do aggressive tree planting. In fact, part of the mandate of the department requires that we should be able to have sites dedicated for conservation purposes, or what we call forestation. All of this is geared towards one thing, to make sure that we in the city of Abuja breathe cleaner air. And of course, there's something important about greening, not just for the purposes of beautification, trees, especially the economic trees, provides a lot of benefits to even the city. And that's why in some of the stream valleys we are encouraging pure conservation purposes, botanical gardens, orchards, so that at the end of the day we can also encourage what they call urban gardening through that process. So there's a lot we can really talk about, and the role of the department.
Yes. Thank you, Director. Before we continue, let me quickly remind our listeners that this program is sponsored by the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. Our secretariat is at Michael Okpara Way, Zone 5, Abuja. And we have a dedicated WhatsApp telephone number, which is 0903 696 2942. I come again, 0903 696 2942. So we encourage listeners with any comments, question, to please send to this WhatsApp line, so that subsequently we'll be able to answer the issues raised. Thank you very much.
Hi there. Do you want to know how to get the correct approval or documents for your land and property? Do you need the right information on how you can prevent your building from being demolished? Then tune in to Town Planning Program on Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja every Thursday by 5 p.m.
Hello, property owners in Abuja. Do you know where your land is located? Do you wish to recertify it or acquire a C of O? Do you wish to write site reports for your plots? Are you sure of the specific use of your land? If so, what do you want to build? Hope you have gotten an approval to build and you are not blocking any public facilities like access road, drainages, or encroaching into other plots, as building without approval is illegal and punishable by demolition.
A town planner can help you secure your land and property development according to Abuja Master Plan and other legislations.
Oh yes! Hurry! Call a town planner today to avert future problems. For more information, please locate us at plot 2047 Michael Okpara Way, Wuse Zone 5, Abuja. This message is brought to you by Nigerian Institute of Town Planners FCT chapter.
We are the dream.
Yes, thank you very much, listeners. We are still on the town planning program sponsored by the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, FCT Abuja chapter, and our callback number on WhatsApp line is 0903 696 2942. That's our WhatsApp number, and we encourage listeners to send their comments or questions to this WhatsApp line. So, can we now go on to the next stage with our Director of Parks and Recreation? I want to take him to the area of policy arena. What are the roles of planners in making Abuja a green city? To facilitate this, we know there is a policy, an FCT 2019 policy on parks. Director, can you please elaborate?
Yes, the FCT Park Policy 2019 stemmed from the policy trust of the FCT administration on sustainable development of designated parks, green areas, and open spaces. And it states that the Department of Development Control, Department of Parks and Recreation in the FCT has been mandated to take possession of, secure, and ensure the development of the city's green areas, open spaces, and designated parks in a sustainable manner and with the active participation of the private sector. And that is as it was published and gazetted in 2005. That is what the 2019 park policy is building on. And this 2019 park policy is so versatile, and it's so, in a sense, it's a document that we all should be proud of, because it's the whole essence was to protect the green from abuse. For instance, before this policy, there was so much abuses on our greens. You find a situation whereby many of those green areas were converted to other commercially oriented activities like restaurant, drinking bars, and all of that. And it helps to define and classify our greens in categories. For instance, talks about stream valleys, talks about incidental open spaces, green strips, even buffer, and defines what ought to be done on them. So, for instance, the stream valleys, the 2019 park policy sees it as conservation areas we can develop what we call the greenway trails. It encourages things like botanical gardens, it encourages things like orchards, horticulture, and plant nursery. It's a major deviation from the past. Of course, we have some designated park sites that we can encourage recreational activities. It does also create themes to be able to manage and develop these parks. And these themes enable the department now to prevent abuses on our green areas. So that's why the 2019 FCT park policy is so important, even to the extent that it defines the procedure on how to engage the private sector in the development of our greens. In fact, the whole 2019 FCT park policy envisages that the department should develop, manage, maintain, and operate these green areas. But in the event that there are no funds to be able to develop, especially large-scale parks, for public interest, we can engage them. And it set out that procedure. What we have done now is to implement. I got an approval from the FCT minister to implement that policy, and we are doing just that. We now have what we call a park registry, where interested private sector who wants to develop park can come, obtain a form upon payment of prescribed fee in line with the policy. And it also, the FCT 2019 park policy also defines what the department ought to do. For instance, it talks about vegetation approval. Of course, it says the Department of Development Control will approved structures, while the Department of Parks and Recreation handles issues of vegetation permits. That is all to ensure conservation of our greens. So it is a very beautiful document, and if we can implement the content of that policy, we'll see a complete, beautiful city.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay, I want to thank Director for the elaborate explanation on what the policy is all about. While Director was talking about what the policy is all about, a lot of things just keep coming to my head. One is that in this part of the world, you find policy taking this sort of top-down approach, where policy starts from the top and expected that from the top it now goes down, and most often you find public participation sort of lacking. Now, in terms of the public getting involved in this policy you're talking about now, to what extent has the department engaged with the public towards seeing that this policy is the public, it's for the people, and not necessarily following this sort of top-down approach? To what extent have you engaged with the public?
Yes. In fact, since I assumed office, we have what we called an association of park operators. We've been engaging them, trying to enlighten them about the new park policy, and that they must make sure that they key into this policy. In fact, when the minister came, the first thing he talked about was the abuse of our parks and green areas, and that he will not condone such things. In fact, he said many of those structures will go down. So we have to engage to be the park operators. Even we have the plant nursery group too. For me, those ones are very, very important for us, and then we really encourage them. So we are interfacing with them and getting them to understand this 2019 policy and how it's going to benefit them in the long run. So we are really making that effort. We've had several meetings with them. In fact, as late as last week, I had a meeting with the group. So they are actually on board. In fact, if you see the quantum of people that are buying these forms, in fact, we've also done audit, and there's need to revalidate because there was so much abuse, so many fraudulent letters, and so we are trying to revalidate. And so all of them have shown so much interest, and they are happy because there's now going to be proper documentation, records, and it gives a lot of confidence to them now as we speak.
Yeah, if I may ask the director, in the revalidation audit that is currently ongoing to find the authenticity of those green areas that are awarded versus those that were abused, in the incident of abuses being discovered, are you able to recover those abused allocations?
Yes, I think we just about 2 weeks ago, before the former minister left, there was an approval to revoke some parks. That has been done, it's been published. That's one aspect of it. The second thing is this: the 2019 park policy insists that all parks, green areas, open spaces are to be titled FCT Parks and Recreation Department. That is a very, very key component. And in fact, the policy expects that going forward, other relevant stakeholders like URP, who does extensions into the green, can no longer do such extensions because there's a subsisting policy on what they call adjoining green. And then there is also the policy envisages that all lands so designated in the master plan would have to be titled. The beneficiary is the department now, unlike before. So that is what we are pursuing, to make sure that we are also getting the operators understand that the parks does not belong to them. We are only subleasing it to them.
Exactly. It's
That is very, very important.
It's like a sub-leave to the operators.
And there's a term, there's a tenure for it, so it's not like before.
Yeah.
What is that tenure, quickly? Because time is on our side. How many years?
30 years, depending on the
category,
okay.
And
also if it is even what is to be done. That's it depends on what you are supposed to do in terms of the quantity of development that is expected there. So it can get up to 70 years.
So, yes, thank you, Director. Apparently, time is not on our side, but we do assure the public that there will be a part 2 to this program next week, such as some issues we have noted. We will have to revisit them. Like we said to all listeners, if you have any questions or issues to ask us, please send it to our WhatsApp number, which is 0903 696 2942. Again, 0903 696 2942. Please drop your questions, drop your comments. When we come again next week, we will start with those questions and issues. Thank you.
All right, you have heard from the man, and today was such a very interesting program because we got to learn more about the city green areas, the role of planners in creating green cities. So once again, thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
My name is Benedict Henshaw. Until next week, thank you so much for listening to the program.
Hi there. Do you want to know how to get the correct approval or document